The hour of 6:30 p.m. having arrived, I will call to order this regular meeting of the Planning Board. This meeting is being broadcast live on City of Keene YouTube channel. The video is also streamed on the city's website and is posted on the website by the end of the next business day, barring any technical difficulties. Anyone wishing to review a copy of the agenda and supporting materials will find it on the city website. To receive electronic copies of future agenda packets, please go to the homepage and subscribe to the city meetings email list. The public and other board members will be recognized to ask questions and make comments on the agenda item under discussion. After being recognized, all remarks are to be made through the chair. Will the staff please conduct the roll?
Pamela Russell-Slack, David Orgaz,
Here.
Mayor Hansel, Councillor Remy, Harold Farrington,
Here.
Roberta Mastrogiovanni,
Here.
Armando Rangel,
Here.
Emily Levine Bernier, Gail Summers, Randon Markelon,
Here.
Tammy Adams, and Kenneth Cost. And Chair, tonight, in order to make quorum, Ms. Markelon would have to participate as a voting member.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from October 24th, 2022, November 14th, 2022, and November 28th, 2022?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the minutes for all three of the meetings in a single vote.
Is there a second? Any discussion, questions, comments, or changes? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Recording in progress.
Thank you. On a final vote on conditional approvals, I'd like to note that there is a new standing agenda item in response to the recent City of Dover decision issued by the New Hampshire Supreme Court. As a matter of practice, the board will now issue a final vote on all conditionally approved plans after all of the conditions precedent have been met. This final vote will be the final approval and will start the 30-day appeal clock. I'm going to ask the staff, are there any applications tonight that are ready for final vote?
There are no applications that are ready for a final vote this evening.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to the first item on the agenda this evening is a public hearing. It is S-11-22, subdivision and boundary line adjustment, 22 and 24 Rule Street. The applicant Cardinal Surveying and Land Planning, on behalf of owners Richard W. and Carolyn M. Davis, proposes a lot line adjustment between the properties located at 22 Rule Street, tax map number 532-050-000, and 24 Rule Street, tax map number 532-051-000. That would result in the transfer of 0.02 acres from the 1.14 acre parcel at 22 Rule Street to the 0.22 acre parcel at 24 Rule Street, and a two-lot subdivision of the parcel at 22 Rule Street into to a single 0.48 acre lot and a single 0.65 acre lot. The properties are located in the low-density district. Does staff have recommendation for the completeness of the application?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Mary Brenner, Senior Planner. The applicant has requested a few exemptions from submitting a grading plan, a landscaping plan, a lighting plan, as well as a narrative that addresses the 13 site development standards due to the fact that no development is proposed at this time. Staff have reviewed the requested exemptions and recommend that the board accept this application as complete.
Thank you. Is there a motion to accept the application as complete?
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the application as complete.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a second, and all in favor? Okay, we accept the application as complete, and we would like the applicant to come forward and present the proposal, please.
Good evening, I'm Wendy Fellows here from Cardinal Surveying
representing the Davises. Thank you. This is an angle. So this is Rural Street. George Street is down here, out towards Concord Road, going this way. The two lots, this is 22 Rural Street, is an L, which is currently 1.14 acres, and this is 24 Rural Street, which is 0.22 acres. It's bounded by two paper streets. This is the extension of Barcombe Street, and this is an unnamed street, been existence for quite a while on the records as paper streets. So what they'd like to do, there's two existing homes on here, is subdivide and boundary line adjustment so we can add a third lot. 24 Rural Street, we basically turned it. It's a 0.23 acre lot. So it would have more of a backyard instead of a side yard. The entrance to the rear lot is over here, which is 60 feet. And we maintained the existing boundary line here and just cut off the property back here on a kitty corner. There are steep slopes back here, but there is a significant building area, and actually it's a very nice building spot right back in here. It's mostly gravel. It's been cleared. It was very wooded, and Mr. Davis has cleared it. So the driveway would come in, and then a house lot would be built back there. It does have city services. That's about it. Any questions that I can answer?
Does the board have any questions for the applicant? Oh, yes, Mr. Harrington.
Wait till he has comments.
Hi. So it'll be 3 lots now and 2 existing houses?
Right.
And the third one, okay, because we didn't think there was any development intended for the third lot.
Well, right now it's just a subdivision. There isn't a house proposed.
Okay.
It'll be up to the owners
Okay,
of when they want to build.
all right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the board? No. Seeing none, I'll go down this and then would you like to say something?
Yeah, now, I own this land here. The city owns next to it,
Yes.
right?
Okay.
They don't have a deed to it. They haven't paid taxes on it for 65 years.
First
Sir,
of
are
all, could you state your
the-
name, please, and name and address for the record?
Richard Davis.
And your address, please.
And
You have to state your address.
176 George Street.
Thank you.
And I own this house there too.
So, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah, this is not
might
a,
be for the public comment portion of the public hearing, so you'll have a chance to speak, sir, in just a moment, unless the chair wants to take
no,
things on
we'll
board.
get to your portion in a moment. We have to continue some of our business first, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. At the public portion, we will call you. I invite staff for comments, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mary Brenner, Senior Planner. I think the applicant gave a pretty good overview of the proposal, so I'm just going to run through first the dimensional standards that apply here and some of the site development standards. As the applicant explained, currently there's 2 single-family lots. The proposal would result in the creation of 1 new developable single-family lot. Well, there's no development proposed at this time. That lot could be developed for a single-family home in the future, but that's not being proposed tonight. So right now, it's just the creation of that new lot, which would require, initially, this is basically a 2-step application. The first step is the lot line adjustment, and then following that, a subdivision. So it's being presented to you all in one application, but there's really 2 steps to it. So the request is to do a lot line adjustment that would transfer 0.01 acres of land from the 22 Rural Street to the 24 Rural Street property. I will note that this adjustment will actually make the property at 24 Rural Street conforming with the minimum lot size requirement in zoning. Currently, it's just under 10,000 square feet, where 10,000 square feet is the minimum. So that boundary line adjustment brings the 24 Rural Street property into conformance with zoning. And then there would be a subdivision of the 22 Rural Street property into 2 new properties. All of the resulting properties would meet the zoning requirements for minimum lot size, which again is 10,000 square feet in the low density district, as well as all of the other dimensional requirements. As the applicant noted, there are steep slopes on the new developable lot that would be created. So that was one of staff's comments, that there are some notes on one of the plan sheets that describe the different approvals that would be required from the city when development does occur. And staff are recommending that those notes be shown on the subdivision plan that gets recorded, which just makes things a little bit more, it makes it easier when there is a new owner that buys the property. They'll be able to find that information more easily. So that is a recommendation from staff. In addition, there is a existing carport on the 24 Rural Street property that is currently complies with zoning, but with this change in the movement of the lot line, it would become non-conforming with zoning because it would be within the side setback. And so staff do recommend that that carport be removed before final approval so that this complies with zoning. In addition, there's a small shed that's located where the new lot is proposed to be created, so it would be a shed just by itself on that new property. Technically, that's not allowed under zoning either because that would become the primary structure, so we're also recommending that the removal of that shed or the relocation of that shed be a condition of approval. With respect to the development standards that apply, all 3 parcels have access to city sewer and water along Rural Street. This is also noted on the plan set under note number 6 under City of Keene Development Standard on sheet 1. The applicant specifies that all necessary permits will need to be obtained from the Public Works Department for sewer and water connections. And this also notes that private on-sewer ejector pumps may be needed to access city sewer lines. So that standard appears to be met. With respect to traffic and access management, there's no change proposed to the existing site access points for the 2 single-family homes that are in existence today. The applicant is proposing to remove the portion of the existing driveway that's on the new proposed lot. And then when that lot is developed, they would need to obtain a street access permit through the Public Works Department. And then with respect to surface waters and wetlands, there are no jurisdictional wetlands that have been observed on these properties, so that it appears that that standard does not apply. So staff have provided a recommended motion in your packet. The proposed conditions of approval include the submittal of the paper and Mylar copies that are required, submittal of a fee to cover the cost of recording the plans at the registry. Again, the removing the existing carport and the existing shed. And then one other condition of approval that we are recommending, it came to our attention through a review of the Land Development Code that there is in the Chapter 22, which is the public improvement chapter of the Land Development Code, there is a requirement that says that before the planning board can sign any subdivision plan, the city engineer must go out and inspect the lot monuments. So we haven't been making this a condition of approval for subdivisions, but it appears as though we should be. So we added that as a condition of approval. And then, and finally, the 5th condition that we're recommending is that the notes that are shown on sheet 1 also be shown on the sheet that gets recorded so that future property owners, again, are aware of all the different requirements they might need to meet. Happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Do board members have questions for staff? Okay, we have no questions, Mary. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite the public to ask questions, provide comment, and please, once again, state name and address and speak into the microphone. The public would like to speak on this? No.
What's,
Would you like to speak, sir?
what's gonna happen to the land that's next to mine? The right of way that nobody owns
Well,
on
we're-
Markham Street.
Yeah, we're actually here, hearing about this proposed lot line adjustment, and that's what the board is working on this evening. That would be to another department in the city to address that. Does the staff have anything to add to this?
Sir, if you're willing to give me your contact information, I can follow up with you on that, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, I mean, we've been 2 years following up on it, you know what I mean? Sent you 2 letters.
About-
Sent you 2 letters, you know, something. Then the engineer, the city of Keene said, get your lawyer and have him do it.
Oh, so it sounds like this is something you've already been in contact with the city
Yeah.
about.
And
Yeah.
they said they couldn't do nothing, they could never find a deed to it because the guy passed away 65 years ago, and nobody's been paying taxes on it.
Well, so it sounds like this is something that we should discuss outside of the meeting. The proposal that we're discussing here tonight doesn't directly impact that land, but I can try to follow up with you on it.
Yeah, well, I mean, only thing I'd like, because I own the other side too.
Okay.
So you're welcome to offer your name and address and contact info to Mary, and after.
Yeah, I'll stop up and see. it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Are there other members of the public who wish to speak? Okay.
You know what I'm talking about.
Okay, seeing that there are no more public questions, I will close the public questioning. And I will deliberate with the board. Going to move forward and ask if there is a motion for this request.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to offer a motion to approve S-11-22 for a boundary line adjustment between the properties at 22 Rule Street, tax map plat number 532-050-000, and 24 Rule Street, tax map plat number 532-051-000, and a 2-lot subdivision of the parcel at 22 Rule Street, as shown in the plan set identified as 2-lot subdivision and boundary line adjustment, lots 532-050 and 000, and 532-051-000, 22 and 24 Rule Street, Keene, New Hampshire, 03431. Prepared by Cardinal Surveying and Land Planning at a scale of 1 inch equals 30 feet on November 10, 2022, and last revised on December 1, 2022, with the following conditions precedent prior to final approval and signature of the plans by the Planning Board Chair. Condition 1, submittal of 4 paper copies and 2 Mylar copies and a digital copy of the final plan set. 2, submittal of a check in the amount of $51 made out to the City of Keene to cover the cost of recording the final plat at the Registry of Deeds. 3, removal of the existing carport and the relocation or removal of the existing shed on the property at 24 Rule Street, subject to a final inspection by city staff. 4, inspection of lot monuments by the Public Works Director or their designee following the installation or the submittal of a security in the amount deemed satisfactory to the Public Works Director to ensure that the monuments will be set. And finally, 5, submittal of a revised plan to be recorded at the Registry of Deeds that includes the City of Keene Development Standard Notes shown on sheet 1 of the plan set.
Thank you. Motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or edits? We will take a vote to, on this motion to approve with conditions. All in favor? It has passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was pretty easy, wasn't it? Huh? Hey, Commissioner.
We have to go out in the hall.
Huh? Well, I did, thank you. That's okay.
Thank
I
you.
did check all my money in the wall. Hey,
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is a change of governmental land use. RSA number 67454 regarding a proposed skate park on the property located at 160 Water Street, tax map plat number 586-001-000. The 2.19 acre parcel is owned by the City of Keene and is located in the Business Growth and Reuse District. Per New Hampshire RSA 67454, the Planning Board received notification from the City of Keene regarding the proposed skate park at 160 Water Street, which is the former Findings property. Any comments are non-binding this evening for the Planning Board? I would like to invite the project representative to present to the board. Your presentation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Andy Bohannon, Parks Recreation Facilities Director for the city. So before you tonight is just an overview of the skate park project and the location and the application that we had submitted related to requesting for the purpose for the planning board to consider a change of 160 Water Street to governmental use. Go ahead, Mary. So just to kind of give you a background of a quick history of the park. As you probably are familiar with the park that was located on Gilboa Avenue. It was established in 1996. And as a part of that process, many volunteers made that effort come to fruition, similar to this current park. If you go back to the comprehensive master plan, which I know the planning board is, that's kind of your Bible, if you will, that is highlighted on page 97. One of the bullets on the parks side was building a permanent skate park that is integral into a more park-like atmosphere, which connects the Russell Park, which is, you'll see here in a few moments, how that connection happens. And so in 2011, there was a relocation committee that kind of took a look and made a pretty detailed report back to the city council, which the city council adopted making sure that if you're going to be looking at a skate park, you want to have many different successful components, and part of that was that connectivity to other parks and some of the amenities that are being built within Russell Park. So I won't go into those details because I'm going to a little bit later. But as part of that, just a year later, we did the active and passive recreation management plan. And looking at some key issues, there was 9 key issues that we presented to the planning board at that time. And looking at the long-range planning for and park-specific master plans. And then there was the 9, and then there was 14 different recommendations for each particular key issue. And I was really kind of look at making sure that we did our due diligence and looked at particular park-specific information when we're trying to decide to relocate or repurpose a particular park. So as a result of that, as you can see, the skate park has a kind of a long planning history. And in 2015, a group that had kind of sparked out of the relocation committee hired Spawn Ranch, who's our contractor currently, to provide a design to go at that time out at Wheelock Park, where the bike park sits today. The problem is they designed this incredible facility, the skaters did, but they could not raise $750,000. So the project kind of died. And then in 2018, Kathy Burke, who you will see just in a minute, came forward and said, I can do this. And her son was a BMXer and totally changed his life at that park. And she said, I'm going to make this happen. So she did. In 2022, the city was able to purchase the Findings property, which had been really a long time goal for the city to achieve. We had looked at the property for a long time. At one time, the city owned part of it, and there was a land swap. The grassy area behind the fence was the city school district property, and that we land swapped it for the basketball courts. And so when we were able to buy the property, we gained that area back, which is a wetland area. So it was definitely instrumental to that whole Beaverbrook corridor. Next, Mary. So here's Kathy Burke, who was the fundraiser behind this initiative to make the skate park happen for the community. They set off a fundraising campaign. She did everything that she needed to do, hit the big target. Timken came in with $50,000, and then several of the banks followed with $15,000, $20,000. The Tony Hawk Foundation provided $15,000. That was a big get for us, and the city contributed $25,000. So in total, they raised $217,616.16 out of that $300,000 campaign. The city applied for a land and water conservation fund, which is a federally funded program. We just submitted that grant last week for $225,000, which is essentially the match to the in-kind donation from the skate park folks. We signed a design build contract with Spawn Ranch, who I had mentioned earlier, who had kind of done the previous design. So they had followed this particular project for quite a while, and that was for $225,000. And they just finished last week at the rec center basically a final design, where in October we had 37 folks come in and do some in-person sketches and that sort of thing, and then we did an online survey for 68 people that had responded. So Spawn Ranch has been really instrumental in making the design happen. Next. So I'm not going to read you every one of these bullets, but I can tell you that the benefits of the skate park are really endless. And what really sparked me to make sure that we improve this facility was back when the relocation committee was happening, and then Chair Brian Quigley stood before the city council and shared his personal story. And it's much like many of the other skaters and bikers that use the skate park, that it's transformational. It's those, most of the kids who are utilizing the park aren't involved in team sports. They're not involved in the drama club. They're involved with this little group of folks that skate on a regular basis, and that becomes their family. And what it does is these individuals encourage one another. They coach one another. They become their rock, and they help them and with some very difficult times in their lives, and that's their network. And so when it talks about enhancing self-esteem and self-confidence, it's the reason why Kathy raised $217,000. Her son was a video gamer, wouldn't get off the couch, and then his teacher came to him and said, "Hey, why don't you meet me at the skate park and bring your bike?" And from that point forward, her son Sean, who is now at the University of Vermont in the business program, is and doing very well. He never played video games after that. He was just always at the park trying to hone his skills and teaching other kids. And that's the beauty of skate park and biking. They teach other kids as they come along because they're proud of what they do. Hey, how did you do that? It's kind of like an open YouTube session. So there's many of things that benefits the skate park. Mary? So this certainly came out as a result of the relocation committee, but you can also find all of these elements of a successful skate park from the adaptive skate park model. The skate park project, which is called that now, but it was the Tony Hawk Foundation. And if you think about Findings property at 160 in Russell Park along that corridor, and you go down this list, and it's check, 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 and check. The accessibility you have, obviously, you're talking about ADA compliant. Spawn Ranch is designing a wheel-friendly facility where everybody will be able to ride. The visibility into the park is essential for many different reasons. But one of the folks who had come to the 2 public sessions that we have on the design as a female skater, she specifically was asking to make sure that it was visible and the entrance points were multiple, not just one. And so that was another key. The other environmental impact. This particular location is going to help with stormwater runoff, as the Russell Park has done from Beaver Brook. With tearing down the building, we're able to put in some drainage, proper drainage and stormwater infiltration areas. So environmentally, it's definitely a win, and we're getting rid of that building. Adjacent amenities, you have Russell Park, which has a water fountain. You have a public bathroom. You have parking down the street. You have some opportunity to purchase beverages or snacks or that sort of thing, right? Within a mile or within a half mile. According to the skate park adoption model, which is a universal model of how to build a skate park. The size that we're building is size appropriate. It's anything above 8,000 square feet for the city of Keene would be appropriate. This park should be about 9,000 square feet, about the same size as it was, obviously just in a new location. And that is really kind of dependent on the funding that they received. If they had received 300,000, then they might have been able to make it about a 10,000 or 11,000 square foot facility. Seating wise, you want to have bleachers and you want to have benches and have the ability for folks to kind of rest. And then you just want it to be aesthetically pleasing and have the appropriate landscaping and making sure that things are visible and but not overcomplicate it so that, you know, people have places to hide and your operations are clean and maintenance free. So it's kind of, those are the elements. And when you think of our park, Spawn Ranch, when they learned to where it was being proposed, they were very excited because of it met all of those boxes. Mary? So here's kind of a broad view, and then at the next slide, I'll bring you into just some of the bullets, but wanted to share with this is a conceptual design. So for everybody at home watching, a conceptual design is, you know, kind of a rough sketch. We completed this sketch as part of the process to show the City Council what could be done with the property when we went to purchase the property. So we haven't done anything further than the conceptual design, but the one piece of that we needed was the 15,000 square foot parking lot that where the employees, front office employees worked, not that the factory worked, parked down at the other end of the lot. But that 15,000 square foot parking lot was the ideal location. We didn't have to worry about drainage. We didn't have to worry about, you know, removing the pavement. And we just had to worry about removing a lot of the trees and the current fence. And we could still build on that particular site without removing the factory if we hadn't received various funding for that removal. So that's kind of the bigger picture. Mary, next slide, if you will. So one of the things that, you know, we wanted to make sure happened was that we had the size of the facility to build the new skate park, the concrete facility, and concrete was key. We weren't going to go back to the model that we currently had, or not currently, but what we had previously with the wood structures and steel frames. They're just not conducive to New England weather at all, especially New Hampshire weather. But on this particular site, we know we still have to do a demolition. We had to provide some additional parking. We get to create some stormwater retention areas, like I had mentioned, and it really creates a more vibrant presence within the neighborhood when you connect. You know, you remove a building, you build a park, you add another 2.19 acres to an existing 4 acres, and you know you have a pretty established green space. So, and then it also provides access to the Cheshire Rail Trail, which has been a key component, and that's really the reason why Pathways for Keene was involved as a fiscal agent, because of the connections to the bike path. Mary, next slide. So one of the things that when I put the proposal in and had some feedback from staff was, you know, you wanted to be addressed to noise. Now, there's been plenty of studies focused on skate parks and noise, and the noise officer for the Portland, Oregon County Sheriff's Office in 2001 completed a study, and it was related to basically at 50 feet away, what would the sound like for a concrete park? So an ollie, which is one of the tricks that a skater can do, is basically equal to a baseball bat. You know, somebody hitting a ball with a bat, aluminum bat. That's about 65 to 71 decibels. So not anything louder than other recreational activities. If you go and you grind your skateboard across the steel bar, that's about 56 to 65 decibels. So as you can see, as I'm speaking here, 60 decibels, conversation, speech, skate parks at 65. And of course, I think some of the neighbors might hear the last one where somebody flips a trick and doesn't succeed. They might yell a little bit, and that might be a little louder at 1:30. But a skate park is no different than children playing on a swing set, which is also going to be nearby. And so really the noise of that concrete is very smooth. It's when they're actually performing the tricks or the deck gets, they don't succeed at it, that the noise gets generated. Mary? So some of the questions that also came up at the design workshop that I know also occurred through this application process, will there be direct lighting? No, there's not going to be direct lighting specifically on the skate park. If we were to do that, that would be about an additional $150,000, and their project cannot afford that. And then the ongoing expense that we have, really the park is going to be dawn to dusk, which are the hours for Russell Park as well. So enforcement-wise, from city staff, whether that be from Parks and Recreation or from the police department, they know there's a universal parks in our ordinance that the hours are dusk to dawn. Fencing will be down Carpenter and Water Street sides. And so Mary, if you can go back to the previous, that slide, you can see that it's what I call the green building or the Critzy building. That used to be an old warehouse. There's some fencing along that edge, and then Carpenter Street and down Water. That will be the three-sided fencing for that particular area. It's my goal to keep, unless I need to keep like a small fence along a split rail fence along the front, but to make sure the request that came from the female rider was about safety and many entrance and exits points, is to have something along that way, but really have it open to the general recreation area. So, you can go back if you will. Yep, and we're going to try to plant as many trees as we can in that area to prevent shade and help with the noise. And then we'll have some parking, and then we can, next slide. And so that slide there kind of shows you what the design that was presented last Wednesday. Now, this has been adjusted slightly. I don't know what it is, because unfortunately I was sick last Wednesday when we had the public meeting, and they tweaked it a little bit, and I'm waiting for that final design. But that kind of gives you a rough idea. It's not too far from this particular footprint. But wanted to make sure you got a chance to see that. And next slide, Mary. And I threw this quote from the skate park website, keenskatepark.com. That's the fundraising website. And the gentleman you see down there in the corner, JT, he provided this quote to the website, and JT has been part of the relocation committee. He grew up in that park. He was there when it opened, and the cool thing about JT is he's all about giving back. And when he heard that we were going to be building a new park, he was making sure that we connected like Keene Housing Club, Keene Housing Collaborative, to give them the opportunity to learn how to skate. He's donated a ton of boards. He's donated, pads, helmets, things to keep kids engaged. And, he passes it on to the next generation. And if I had taking you back to the slide where all the kids were and the four gentlemen, that's what they all do. They just all give back, and they're super excited. They never would have given, like, now that we have this facility, we can do programming to there where we couldn't do that before. It was just unsafe, and so that's why we're looking forward to this new facility and the location and the connection to Russell Park. I'd be happy to see who's ready to ride with us or answer any questions.
Thank you very much. That was a very nice presentation, and I enjoyed hearing what you had to say.
Thank you.
I do have one question. We're going to open for board questions. On the security, what is the level of security? I mean, is it like unlocked and locked in the morning and closed in the evening?
Yeah, so actually there'd be no gates, it would be open, an amenity, just like Russell Park would be. So there's no security on that front, other than, police drive by. Certainly neighbors would call in. We do have some pretty diligent neighbors in that neighborhood who, if they see something, they say something, which is always a good thing. And one of the things that I wanted to kind of, before Russell Park occurred, we did a small pocket park over on Church Street, and we made a pretty big improvement to that particular site. And some of the neighbors were had complaining, saying, this is going to invite all this kind of activity, da-da-da. Just the opposite. It has invited people to come and sit, and kids hang out after school, neighbors to kind of walk their dog, and they're, the comments that I get is like, is this what Russell Park's going to be like? And I'm like, yeah, this is their opportunity, and this is going to be just that one more extension of that. And I can say, when you were looking at the bigger picture of like the overall, there's like an orange segment that was in the middle. That's really kind of there for the purpose of multiple recreational opportunities. So a farmer's market, if that were to be the case, artisan market, other uses that the community wanted to use that space for, that's what it's there for. It's plenty big enough, and would have the parking. So the more activity that you put in the space, the less negative activity that you have. And I know with a playground, essentially where you can't really see right off of this drawing, there's going to be eyes and ears at all times. And if there is negative activity, it's going to get squashed really fast. They've waited a long time for this park, and they know what's about to come.
Do board members have any questions for the presenter? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, Andy, thanks. We appreciate you taking the time to come down here and present this. It's very nice, and I'm personally, I think it's a great resource for the community, and really a nice example of the city and a group of activist folks working together to get something positive done. So I think it's a great idea. The only question that we had when we were looking at this thing was the fencing. You did mention fencing, so just some sort of screening
Yes.
from Water Street and Carpenter Street, I think would go a long way. So whatever that turns out to be, I think it's important to look at. And then just out of curiosity, do you have any statistics on how many users you have in the existing Gilbo one and what you expect in this park?
I should have brought that. Good question. When we were in the relocation committee, the skate park adaptive model that I had mentioned basically outlines how many kids per thousand, how many kids utilize the space, that sort of thing. We don't have an accurate count of how many go to the park every day. If it's any indication, the bike park that we recently built out at Wheelock sees about 25 to 50 kids a day when it's active. So now some of those used to be at the skate park, but and they moved out there with their bikes, which is a very appropriate venue. But my guess, there's going to be at least 20 to 30 kids there every day, and that's just a hunch. But because it's a new park, a lot of kids will travel. When a new park gets built, skaters like to go and try to, and they hear about it and they go and they test them out. But I can get back to you if you'd like with that particular estimate of what we had back then. It hasn't changed because the model and the school figures really haven't fluctuated that much, and I could get you that direct answer.
Yeah, that's fine, thanks.
Yep.
It was just personal curiosity, that's
Yep.
all. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for the presenter? Yes.
I'm just wondering about funding. You said you just applied for that grant, so if that's received, are we fully funded, or where are we with the funding for the project?
So the skate park itself is fully funded. The ramp, the concrete facility for the skaters is fully funded with the money that they raised. The grant, we use their money to be the match for the federal grant. So if we receive the match for the federal grant, we'll utilize that to tear the building down, do a lot of the site work, get the amenities up, such as bleachers and trees and that sort of thing. I don't think we'd have the money to build the parking lot. That would be another phase. This is a very competitive program, but with additional funding through the CIP, we could make that happen. The one nice thing about this particular parcel is it's attached to another parcel that has already received LWCF funds. The Landwater, it's a National Park Service that oversees this grant. They like to see continuous property, and they fund things that have already been funded before. So after we get these up and running and I receive the grants, it's possible we merge these two particular properties and make it one park, and which would then enable us to go after some additional funding. But our goal is, this is the second grant that I've applied for. We are applying for a FEMA grant here in like 3 weeks to help with the demolition of the building. And if we can get that, or the first one that I applied for, we can use the money from the LWCF to do some of the other things that we want to do. And then we would be fully funded. We are still accepting donations, though.
Thank you. Any further questions? I do not see any members of the public, and there's nothing online, right? We're not doing, okay. So there are no public comments. So it wasn't open, so no need to close. Let me see, the board, any more comments to the project, not necessarily to the presenter? Any comments to the project to discuss? Okay. I'd like to ask for a motion, please.
If we have one, we would need a specific recommendation that we'd like to share, right?
I think it was on the back page. Is this it here?
Mr. Chair, if I may?
Go ahead.
Just a quick note, so the board, you don't have to make a motion tonight. You certainly can if you would like to. It would just be, as you mentioned, Mr. Chair, it would be non-binding comments. But if you don't have any comments, it's not necessary to make a motion.
Okay.
So it's up to you.
Right. So from here, where would I go with the presentation? What is the process?
So I would just ask the board if anybody has any comments or recommendations that they would like to make to the presenter, and if not, you could just thank him for his time, and we can move on to the next agenda item.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, that was what we did. There were no further questions. Did anything happen in that meantime? So, okay, we've heard your presentation, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we will see you again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is adoption of the 2023 meeting schedule, page 45 in the packet. The only date to note is the December meeting date, which is proposed to be the third Monday of the month to avoid the Christmas holiday. And that's been in the packet to review. And is there a motion to adopt the 2023 meeting schedule as presented?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the 2023 meeting schedule as included in the packet.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any questions, comments, or changes on that? All in favor? Thank you. Staff updates. We'd like to invite the staff to provide updates, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've only had one update, which was related to the City of Keene Housing Needs Assessment Project. Just a quick update for the board to let you know where we're at with that project and what the next steps are. So the City of Keene, our department received a grant from InvestNH that supplemented our existing budget to do a local housing needs assessment. That project kicked off at the very end of October, so we got kind of underway in November, and now we're getting to the point where you're going to start to see some results. So we're going to be starting to do our outreach and engagement work. We're going to have a housing resilience survey that we're going to be putting out to the community. And then we're going to be involving, hopefully, the planning board and the PLD committee at your joint committee meetings to give you more updates on the project as we move along. But this is a local housing assessment that's looking at basically trying to get a snapshot of what our current housing needs are, where there's gaps, and then also looking at future projections and where we're going to need housing in the next 10 years. So it's a pretty comprehensive look at housing in the city, and we're also, we built into this project taking a look at the resilience of our housing stock. We know that we have a lot of existing housing stock that's vulnerable to things like flooding, and repeated flooding can cause issues with things like mold. So we're also taking a look at the resilience of our existing housing stock to see if anything there is at risk. And one of the outcomes of this assessment is going to be a toolkit or a list of recommendations of things that the city can do around housing. So stay tuned. We'll have more information for you in the new year.
Thank you. Thank you for staff updates. Moving on to new business, I will note that the planning chair, Pamela Russell Slack, has requested that the board discuss the master plan update at a future meeting, and this will most likely be added to the January meeting agenda. Right now, are there any items of new business that the board would like to see added to future meeting agendas? Nothing at this time. Okay. Upcoming dates of interest, the following dates: Joint Committee of the Planning Board and PLD, January 9th at 6:30 p.m. Planning Board Steering Committee, January 10th at 11 a.m. Planning Board Site Visit, January 18th, 8 a.m. to be confirmed. Planning Board Meeting, January 23rd at 6:30 p.m. And I will now adjourn this meeting at, yes, go ahead, Mr. Harrington.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just actually as a new business item, I was able to participate in the Southwest Region Planning Commission corridor call on Route 101, I guess about 2 weeks ago. And they're basically kicking off an assessment and looking for public comments about, issues that exist on the 101 corridor. Which is Route 101 from Keene to all the way to Temple, about 30 miles of highway, about what to do with that. And They're, they're looking at lots of things, including public transportation, but they want to understand from folks in those communities if there are particular needs that they have with respect to that highway. So I would encourage anybody who has opinions about it to please contact the Southwest Region Planning Commission, which is located in Keene. Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much. If you raised, I missed that, I'm sorry, I didn't see out of the corner here. I'll now adjourn this meeting at 7:30. Thank you.